Well, some shit's gone down today, guys. At least today when I'm recording this. So I'm just gonna record this review and see how it goes. But yeah, let's get to it, shall we? Hello, everyone. Britton here, also known as Some Oak Dude, and I am back here today talking about a book. And the book I am talking about today is The City in the City by China Mieville. Published in 2009, won the Hugo Award, if I remember correctly. It's a good book, so I'm going to be covering it today. It's often debated if science fiction is inherently political as a genre. I mean, on the one hand, it seems kind of obvious that it is, considering that predicting the future is a political act, even as much as it is a speculative one. Yet there are just as many science fiction writers out there who are content to explore the spectacle of the future rather than speculating on what the future might look like, which, nothing wrong with that. Noir is less ambiguous in its political focus, and at its best, I find that noir probes into our broken, corrupt world and attempts to salvage meaning from it. What isn't ambiguous, though, is that China Mieville is a political writer, very unambiguously so. I have to agree with Thomas from SFF 180's assertion that The City in the City is China Mieville's tightest and most efficiently constructed book. Aside from some explanations of the concept and how it works and occasional backstory about the titular cities, there isn't really any fluff here. Nothing really feels idle or unnecessary, and there isn't a moment that really drags, at least for me anyway. Also fortunate is that Mieville doesn't get too cute with the concepts that he plays with, which is something that I've noticed that he can sometimes do in stuff like Iron Council and Embassy Town in particular. You guys might remember my review of that book. Very let down. But I find that I find those two books were dragged down a bit by that Mieville kind of getting cute with the concepts, but he doesn't do that so much here, which is quite nice. And unlike the more ornate language of the Baz Lag books, I find that Mieville's language here is stripped back, very bare and concise. It definitely makes sense considering the genre that Mieville is working in. I mean, noir is a very concise genre, they're not very complicated, or well, they can be complicated reads, but definitely the prose, a lot of people remember hard-boiled prose as very stripped back, very laconic, if you will. And unless you're James Ellroy, there isn't really much time for fucking around. Now, Mieville still indulges himself in the occasional $10 word. I mean, that's kind of how it happens. But there aren't any of the sprawling passages that are a staple of some of his other books, such as the Baz Lag books, for instance. I can't help but admire Mieville's tendency to challenge himself in his work, not really sticking to one style and always trying different things. It doesn't always work, but I do think it's the thought that counts, and I do think it works very well here. I think it really establishes that kind of hard-boiled noir atmosphere that he's going for here. One of the underrated strengths of this book, I find, and I think of Mieville in general, is his dialogue. I really like the dialogue in this book, and if you guys know me, you guys know that I really like dialogue in stories. I think dialogue is a very important part of making your stories work, and in The City in the City, it is on fire. I mean, all of the dialogue is carefully and, most importantly, believably chosen here. I mean, it's awkward, no one says what they mean, it's almost David Mamet-like in how it uses jargon and really clues you into what's going on, using context clues and so that you can figure out what's going on. I think I just was redundant there, but anyway. Yet, even with the more laconic prose, I find that Mieville still evokes such an atmosphere in this book. I mean, I really like the differences between the two cities, with Bezel being more of this kind of broken down, very inspired by East Germany from the end of East Germany, how it basically became this just urban hellscape, for lack of a better term, unless there's German people in the comment section who will go like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. But, that's the vibe I got from Bezel, and the other city being this thriving metropolis. But one of noir's most important parts is atmosphere, and Mieville has that in spades throughout the city and the city. And I find that one of Mieville's most unique strengths as a writer is how he can make his settings feel real and lived in, for that matter. Very especially with New Crobazon, but also here as well. While Bazel and Okoma, I think those are how you pronounce their names, aren't as lovingly constructed as New Crobazon, for example, they are no less vivid. I find that Mieville gives Bezel and Okoma their unique identities, their unique characteristics and quirks. As I mentioned before, I really like the contrast between the two cities, with Bezel being more of this urban hellscape, almost dystopian at points, while Ukolma is this kind of thriving metropolis. But he gives them their own unique characteristics and quirks to the point where I find that they're really characters in the story of their own. Now, Mieville may not have the love for noir that many of its best practitioners do. He definitely understands how it works and why people connect to it so deeply. I mean, some of the tenets of noir are played with here. Obsession, of course, being one of them, particularly with the cities and how the hell it works, and the potential third city that might exist. And kind of the obsession of several academics and students that we end up finding out. We're trying to figure out what this third city is and if it even exists. But also, I find in this book is the question of compromise. But I find that Mieville also uses the tenets of noir to complement his own musings about cultural identity and our tendency to alienate each other because of our differences. I mean, he not only questions if the mysterious Breach organization, which is kind of this Orwellian boogeyman that kind of haunts the characters throughout, that end up kidnapping characters who see the other city by mistake, but it asks if Breach, that company, is a compromise that the characters and us are willing to make in order to keep society safe. But it also asks, he goes a step further and says if it's a compromise that they can make to maintain their cultural identity and even their sense of place. Now, one of Mieville's favored themes that I've noticed in his books rears its head again, which is how we other people who are different than us. Instead of Perdido Street Station, more complex probing into cultural incomprehensibility, The City and the City explores why we shun and exclude people for things that happened years ago, and to the point where nobody even remembers why it started anymore. Mieville really makes that idea literal with the twin cities in this book and the concept of unseeing. It's definitely a strange idea, and I'll admit, it's definitely a strange idea, courtesy of Mieville's characteristically wild imagination, and I won't pretend that I understood all of the, I won't pretend I understood how it worked. Yet I find Mieville really applies this surreal and often baffling conceit with aspects of our real world. It was especially eerie reading The City and the City with the recent Israel and Palestine conflict raging on, and there were certainly parts of this book that mirrored recent events, almost creepily so. But Mieville keeps his focus on the story and doesn't really get lost with political grandstanding like lesser writers might. Though he does take the occasional jabs at nationalists who inflame tensions for their own gains, so it's kind of a given in these kind of books. If there is a gripe I have with The City and the City, there are a couple I have, but the main one is the more typical noir plot from Mieville. I find that at his best, Mieville can be a very unique and powerful writer, and I was expecting that he would mix things up and add his unique flavor to the genre with this book. And while he definitely does with the thematic depth and the political commentary that he employs here, the plot in and of itself is standard noir fare. I can't pretend it's not. I suppose I shouldn't be too upset. The typical stories definitely work when they're done well, and Mieville doesn't try to reinvent the wheel here. The mystery he creates is definitely engaging, intense, and sometimes convoluted, and in other words, it's definitely one that keeps you reading, despite yourself. I also, a little aside, I kind of wish that he had maybe developed the characters a little more. I do think they were believable enough for what he was going for, which is, this is just another day in the job for our main characters here, but I could have used a little more, personally, myself. But nonetheless, The City in the City proves that Mieville is not a one-trick pony. While there is certainly a part of me that wishes he would return to my beloved Bazlag and see how that world and the people living in it has changed in the last 20 years since he's last visited, Mieville definitely reveals his range and diversity as an author in The City in the City, and makes it look easy. This is definitely the book I would recommend starting first if you want a taste of Mieville's style, and you don't really want to jump into Perdido Street Station or The Scar or any of his other books. I find this one is his most approachable, and if you ask Mieville himself, he would say that The City in the City is a good place to start as well. So, yeah. So, that's my review of The City in the City by China Mieville. Hope you guys enjoyed this. So, yeah. That's really all I got for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I definitely enjoyed talking about The City in the City. If you guys have read The City in the City, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you liked it, disliked it, or however you feel about The City in the City. Anyway, social media. I have social media. You can find me on Twitter. You can also find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where where I give far more coherent reviews than the one you just heard right now. You can also find me on Instagram and Blue Sky. I am starting to get the hang of Blue Sky, and I'm starting to use it a little more because I'm starting to get tired of Twitter's crap. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I don't really have much else to say, and City in the City is a good book, so not really much else to say. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time. See you guys later. Bye-bye.